In the heart of Russia's Far East, surrounded by a vast expanse of untouched forest and winding rivers, lies the isolated region of Amur Oblast. It's a land both majestic and unforgiving, and for decades, air travel has remained its lifeline. But on July 24, 2025, this remote corner of Russia would become the site of one of the country's most tragic aviation disasters in recent years. Flight 2311, a scheduled domestic flight operated by Angara Airlines on behalf of Aurora Airlines, was set to travel from Blagoveshchensk to Tinda, a seemingly routine flight just under 700 kilometers long. The aircraft, an aging Antonov AN-24RV, tail number RA47315, a model introduced in the 1960s and widely used across the former Soviet Union. On board were 48 people, 42 passengers, including 5 children, and 6 crew members. Families, workers, and locals, all heading toward the quiet town of Tinda. At around 8:50 local time, Flight 2311 lifted off from Blagoveshchensk. Weather conditions at departure were fair. The AN-24, despite its age, was flying steadily through the Siberian sky. Inside the cockpit, the crew, experienced but working with a limited avionics suite, maintained radio contact with air traffic control. The aircraft was expected to land in Tinda by mid-morning, but as the plane approached its destination, the weather began to shift. Tinda Airport, nestled in a mountainous region, is known for its challenging approaches, especially during poor weather. Light rain and low visibility were reported in the area that morning. The runway, runway 6, is flanked by dense forests and rolling hills. As the aircraft began its final approach, the flight crew decided to go around, a standard procedure when landing alignment is lost or visibility becomes insufficient. It was a cautious and correct decision, but then radio contact was lost. There was no emergency transmission, no mayday, just silence. At approximately 9:55 local time, radar contact with Flight 2311 disappeared. ATC attempted multiple times to re-establish communication. There was no response. Within moments, an emergency was declared. Search and rescue operations were launched immediately. Helicopters and ground units were dispatched, but the terrain, thick forest, muddy trails, and remote hillsides made access incredibly difficult. The wait was agonizing. Families gathered. Emergency teams combed through the wilderness. Then came the confirmation, roughly 16 kilometers southeast of Tinda Airport, near a wooded slope. The burning wreckage of the Antonov AN-24 was discovered. The aircraft had collided with the hillside during the go-around, disintegrating on impact. There were no survivors. All 48 lives, including 5 innocent children, were lost in an instant. It was a horrific scene, the fuselage broken apart, scorched remains strewn across the terrain. The intensity of the crash left little hope from the outset. Recovery efforts continued throughout the day and into the night. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were located amidst the wreckage and were sent for analysis. Rescue personnel worked in grim silence, documenting and preserving every detail. For investigators, the task ahead was immense. For families, it was a time of grief, shock, and unanswered questions. A formal criminal investigation was launched by Russia's investigative committee. As is standard procedure in fatal aviation incidents, initial areas of focus included pilot decision-making during descent and the go-around, weather conditions and visibility at the time of the crash, potential mechanical or system failures, and the age and condition of the aircraft. Experts also questioned whether terrain awareness systems were functioning or present at all, given the aircraft's vintage design. The aircraft, RA47315, was nearly 50 years old. Over its long service life, it had been involved in several previous incidents. In 2010, the nose gear collapsed during landing. In 2011, a pressurization failure forced an emergency descent. In 2019, it experienced an avionics malfunction during flight. Yet, it remained in service. Sanctions imposed on Russia have crippled access to Western aircraft parts, forcing regional operators to rely on Soviet-era fleets that have long surpassed their intended lifespan. Flight 2311 was more than just an accident. It became a symbol of a system stretched to its limits. Whether due to poor visibility, outdated equipment, pilot misjudgment, or a combination of all three, the result was the same: 48 lives lost, leaving behind grieving families and shattered communities. As we remember the victims of Flight 2311, we carry forward one truth: safety in aviation is not a luxury. It is a responsibility, one that must be upheld before another flight becomes another tragedy.